We're here to learn. Did you forget the mission? Welcome to Anime Discussions. My friends call me D, and today, y'all ready to make some bacon?
You guys want to make some bacon? He pulls a mask over his face, pulls a lit Molotov cocktail out of his mailbag, and
That has absolutely nothing to do with this episode. I just really like that scene, and I'm a big T20 fan. Anyway, when I first started this challenge, I had mentioned that I am doing this so that I can learn more about filmmaking. But I want to show run, I want to direct, I want to write. And I realized to do that, I should probably study the craft. Oh, that was so cute 5 months ago. Anyways, I thought it'd be really fun to find a tangible way to express the lessons I've learned from some of the movies I've done and put them all in one video. I thought this would be a really cool way to just explain what I've learned and remind myself and the audience what this channel is for. We're here to learn about how to make movies from some of the best movie makers in the world. So let's get started. First movie, Shawshank Redemption. Sometimes the right answer isn't always the right answer. And here's what I mean by this. Shawshank Redemption is a beautiful movie. It's a painful movie. It is a movie that leaves a stamp on your heart. Frank, the director, was originally going to end the movie here.
I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams.
There wasn't going to be a reunion with Andy and Red. We weren't going to have Red made it across the border. If Andy was going to be there once Red got there, we weren't going to know any of that. And you know what? Frank made the right call. That would have been the right decision. It would have left the audience with hope and a tinge of uncertainty of like, what happens? What do we know what happened to Andy? Do we like all of that? And that's kind of something you want your audience to have. You want that feeling of, I want more. I want more answers. We've talked about this, and I think I'll talk about it a little more in one of the other lessons. But Tim Robbins had told Frank, you gotta give the audience something. They've been sitting here for 2 hours of just pain after pain. You gotta have them have something.
Well, it was a class of its own in the story that it was telling, and that it resolved the way it resolved. That doesn't happen very often. A lot of happy endings are tacked onto films. They're not earned through a long process of a journey.
Right.
And this one got that. You got to the end of this thing and you went, oh my God, this is hopeful, this is life-affirming. It was a struggle to get there, but at the end, it's about something. It's about the human capacity to survive.
I don't know that this movie would have hit as hard if that ending wasn't there, if there wasn't that that sigh of relief, that relationship finality. Tim Robbins talks about it. He says there's not a lot of movies nowadays that just have deep brotherly love. It's not about women, it's not about car chases, it's not about spies. It's just about two men who platonically, genuinely have a deep care and love for each other. And there aren't a lot of movies about that. It's very hard to find movies about this. And so to have that ending really puts a stamp on this movie is about two friends that went through hell and found their way to heaven. And I think that's beautiful. Cinematically, Frank's decision to end the movie there, which is also where the book ends, would have been the right decision. But the right answer for this was what Tim suggested, making this ending happen, giving them something to hold on to. So that's a lesson for me to learn. Sometimes what is the right answer isn't necessarily what's needed for that story to really hit home. Now, this movie, with or without that ending, phenomenal. I do think it still would have been in the top 100, but I think that ending is what gave it a safe space in people's heart. This is a movie that at the end everything's going to be okay. And people need that. We need those movies where we feel things are going to work out. Second movie, Sunset Boulevard. The ending can change everything. I've mentioned before, I don't like endings. I hate things ending. And so I don't even finish my journals. I leave the last 5 to 10 pages with the thought of like maybe I'll add a where am I now kind of portion when I go back and read what the journal was about in that season and see how that issue was handled. Endings are hard for me. And I'm realizing that's a problem for me as a storyteller because my endings when I tell stories and write stories are severely lacking because I don't know how to say goodbye.
We never said goodbye.
We're talking about it in therapy, whatever, it's fine. But what I'm noticing is how important and how much an ending can change. Now, I just did a review on Sunset Boulevard, so I won't stay on this movie too long. But I did not see or predict how this ending was going to go. I'm sure a lot of people predicted she was going to lose her mind. That didn't happen for me. It was a shock. Even when she was leaning against the pillar, thinking, nobody leaves a star. I was still like, oh, did they just run away? What happens? And then seeing how much she snapped after, I was like, oh. And watching Max stay with her, I was like, oh, this is so painful. This is devastating. And the only one who's really, really hurting here is Max. He's a victim of this too. And so it's this fascinating thing of watching how much an ending can really impact a movie. There have been multiple movies I've watched this year that have entered my psyche where I've watched the ending and it's just completely changed everything. I'm making a note of this because it's important to know that sometimes a movie won't hit if you don't get the ending right. Sometimes a great movie can be pushed even a little further to be phenomenal. Third movie, Life of Chuck. Not every question needs to be answered. I love this movie. Man, this movie. It's a beautiful movie, and it's a movie where not a lot of questions are answered for me. I had a lot of questions that we didn't get answers to. And that's okay. And I think that's what made the movie so magical. I come from preschool television where we really have to work hard on writing that line of exposition because, on one hand, you're working with a younger audience, so you want to make sure you explain things so that they can understand the plot of the show. But on the other hand, you don't want to over explain because you want them to start using their critical thinking skills to figure things out. And it's a very difficult line, but an important one. And I think that that's something that can be lost when movies gain popularity or shows become really good. In an industry where longevity leads to career stability, that can really hurt a project. I think Lost and How I Met Your Mother are two very good examples of this. If I'm not mistaken, both of them knew the ending of the show before the show boosted in popularity and grew as big as it did. And as a result, they stretched the show so long that by the time the ending came, it didn't hit anymore because the ending did not match everything that they added into the show. Questions were already answered, new questions came up, which then kind of negated the ending. And so I think there's an important thing here where we have to learn how to let go. The hard part is that leads to less money sometimes. And so what's the balance? I don't know. I just work here. I'm the security guard. Anyways, I think that's a very important lesson. How do we find a way to leave some questions unanswered? And I think it leads to more magic in our storytelling when it's not all figured out. Fourth movie, Weapons. The ability to keep the audience out until you pull them in.
Are you watching?
Just a quick warning, this is like a tiny spoiler. I don't even know if I would call it a spoiler, but I like to say that because this movie's one of the newer ones that have come out that I'm learning a lesson from. Guys, this might be my favorite lesson in the whole video that I'm doing right now. I loved this. The first 10 minutes of Weapons were my favorite 10 minutes of the whole movie, and that says nothing about how the rest of the movie was. It's a great movie, but here's what I loved about this movie. In the first 10 minutes, as the little kid is narrating about something really bad happened in my town, you watch as they're telling this story, and in the story, you only see the backs of people's heads. And I love this mechanic because in doing that, you know you're not in the story, you're witnessing something. You have a bird's eye view of what's happening, but you are not in the story. And it's not until they start telling the first POV, which is the teachers, that the camera goes from the back of her head and turns to the front. And that, I literally almost felt myself getting pulled into the movie. It's like, I am here now. I'm no longer just a witness. I am in the midst of this. And that blew my mind. Blew, 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 blew my mind. So good. And I've never seen that before. And I really want to see that again. And it was just such a. Larkin Staple was the cinematographer for this movie, and that says so much because he was also the cinematographer for This Is America by Childish Gambino and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is one of my top 5 movies. What? That's insane. Here's what's so cool. These movies are movies that have left a very lasting impression. Everything Everywhere All at Once hit so hard. If this was back in the 80s, when movies would come out, when they were big movies, they would be talked about for years. It was like this huge phenomenon. Everyone had to go to the theater to see it. Everyone went for this one movie. There's so much media nowadays that that's not happening as much anymore. People will be like, "Oh, this is a great movie." And then it like kind of die for a little bit. So to have a movie that like hits hard and lasts for months says a lot about every aspect of it, the writing, the storytelling, the casting, for sure. But in this instance, I really want to talk about the cinematography and how that leaves such an impression. Oh my gosh, Everything Everywhere All at Once lasted for so long. It was so different and so dynamic. And that people talked about that movie for ages. Two of the most recent examples we've had of that is Sinners and K-pop Demon Hunters. Sinners was huge when it first came out, and that was 4 months ago. And even now, we're really not talking about Sinners that much anymore. K-pop Demon Hunter came out, blew up for months, and it's slowly dying. It's still like people are still talking about it, but not like as much as when it first came out. You know what I mean? Back in the day, this will last forever. So for Larkin to create movies that can hold on and leave that impression, This Is America made a huge impression when it first came out for obvious reasons. And again, this also goes to the writing, this goes to the directing. It's not just the cinematography, but to be able to tell these stories and showcase them in such a way that like grabs our attention, especially because as society continues with social media and TV, attention is really hard to hold on to for long periods of time because we like quick bits. That's why my TikTok channel is more popular than my YouTube channel because it was just quick sound bites as opposed to like my long form videos. That's just how it is. And so it says a lot to his ability to tell story through cinematography that these movies that he's been in are just like, and they tell these awesome things. And so this mechanic of like keeping me out and then opening the door to let me in,
I'm sad.
I can't wait to use this. I cannot wait to use this in storytelling. This is my favorite lesson in all of the lessons for this episode. I love it. And that's all for this episode. Let me know if you liked it. If you want me to make more, I absolutely will. This is really fun for me, and it helps me put a tangible place for all the lessons I've been learning so I can go back to them quickly. If you guys want me to continue this series, put it in the comments. Also, what's a lesson without application? So every time I do a video like this, I'm going to challenge myself to do a 5-page, very short script to see if I can find real natural ways to implement the learning mechanics into my storytelling. If you guys ever want to see those scripts, let me know. If not, they'll just be for me. And if you want to join the challenge, put it in the comments and we'll all start at the same time. I'm thinking about starting a Discord soon, so if you guys are down to clown, down to pound, that sounds weird. I take that last one back. But if you're down to have a writing group with me, let me know. I don't even know if I fully expect these scripts to make sense, but I think it'd be a really good way to just practice and learn how to implement what I like in a natural way. So if you guys are down and want to join in, let me know. Put it in the comments. Beyond that, I hope you guys have an amazing day. And as always, see you later.